Happy New Year! I'm Tim Hamilton with StellarQuest Real Estate. Every year, I like to review what happened in the housing market during the prior year and then forecast what I expect to happen during the upcoming year. This video is our 2020 review of the housing market in Orange County. If you'd like to watch our forecast, I will leave a link to that video in the description below. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home in 2021, please feel free to call or email me anytime. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions and help you start planning today. I get a lot of information for these videos from the Orange County Housing Report by Stephen Thomas. So if you'd like to read the full report, just let me know and I'd be happy to send you a copy. 2020 was a little bit of a roller coaster ride for the housing market. We started the year expecting the market to be strong, and everything was going according to plan during the first few months. Then in March, we had lockdowns due to COVID, and the entire housing market flipped upside down. Buyer demand fell like a rock, and there were very few homeowners who wanted to place their home on the market during a pandemic. This pause in the market really didn't last for very long, though. As interest rates fell to all-time historic lows, buyer demand skyrocketed to unprecedented levels. As the year went on, more and more homeowners wanted to list their home for sale, but buyer demand was so high that the inventory never had a chance to build. This left us with an extremely high level of buyer demand mixed with an extremely low level of inventory. This is essentially the recipe to create a hot seller's market where homes are increasing in value and selling quickly. First, let's look at a chart of the active inventory, which is the total number of homes for sale in Orange County. If you look at the green line, which is 2020, you can see that we started the year with a relatively low number of homes for sale. As you move across, you may notice that the inventory never really grew like it normally does. From March through June, we had 4,655 fewer homes come on the market, which is 29% less than normal. From July through November, we actually had slightly more homes coming on the market. However, it's important to point out that homes were actually selling at a higher rate than they were coming on the market, so the inventory was still decreasing during this time period. And finally, if you look at the end of the chart, you'll notice that we ended the year with an extremely low number of homes for sale. Looking at the chart for buyer demand, we can see the effects of the pandemic much more clearly. Looking again at the green line for 2020, demand started out very similarly to the past few years and then took a sharp turn downwards in the middle of March. Demand dropped by 60% to levels not seen since January of 2008. By May, the interest rates had dropped significantly and buyers began flooding back into the market. By the end of June, we had the strongest buyer demand in the last 5 years. Demand typically peaks between April and May, but as you can see on this chart, the demand continued to increase and actually peaked in September with the highest demand peak since 2012. Now we're going to look at the expected market time, which is the amount of time it takes to put a home into escrow from the time it was listed for sale. This chart is probably the best visual representation and summary of the housing market. The expected market time can be used to determine the strength of the market and whether or not we are currently in a deep buyer's market, slight buyer's market, neutral market, slight seller's market, or a hot seller's market. A buyer's market typically favors the buyer, while a seller's market will typically favor the seller. Looking again at the green line for 2020, we started the year in a slight seller's market, which then developed into a hot seller's market. You can then see where the lockdowns began as the expected market time shot up to about 120 days, which is right in the middle between a deep buyer's market and a slight buyer's market. The market lingered there for a little bit, but then dropped straight back down into a hot seller's market where it remained for the rest of the year. I also wanted to point out what happened in November and December. If you look at the last few years, you'll notice that the expected market time increased going into the end of the year. 2020 was a little bit different. You can see that the expected market time actually decreased going into the end of the year, which means we're going to be starting 2021 with a very hot seller's market. I also wanted to quickly talk about the luxury market because it set a new record number of sales in 2020. In Orange County, the luxury market is defined by anything that sells above 1.25 million. It beat the previous record, which was set in 2019, by 26%, which is a little over 1,000 more closed sales for a total of 5,100. The luxury market performed very similarly to the overall housing market in Orange County. It started the year strong, had a bit of a pause during the COVID lockdowns, and then finished out the remainder of the year extremely hot. By the end of the year, there was 25% less homes for sale and 72% more buyer demand compared to the previous year. That wraps up our review of the 2020 housing market in Orange County. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home in 2021, please feel free to give us a call, and we're happy to help you start planning that today. I can also send you the most recent Orange County housing report by Stephen Thomas, or even add you to our monthly emailing or mailing list. So if you want to stay up to date on the housing market, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page so you can watch our next monthly video.